Good morning and welcome again to the word for today. Here with me is Dr. Lisa Adjei. Hi, Dr. Lisa. Good to have you on the broadcast today. Dr. Lisa is the CEO for Sankofa Collective, and she's doing such a great work in Sankofa. Dr. Lisa, do you want to just share with us a little bit of what Sankofa has been doing? I know you've been doing a great work. Yeah, I mean, do you want to just tell the audience about it
Yeah,
today?
great. So Sankofa Collective is a space for Christians to engage in seeking racial justice. We're a group that meet together last Tuesday of the month, and we journey together, and we are excited about learning history, about practicing lament and repentance. And then we believe that we get off our knees and we take action, that we see God's kingdom come by pursuing justice here and now. And so we're excited that lots of people have been joining us and doing the journey with us. And we've been learning so much about what it means to be followers of Jesus in a way that's practical and tangible in how we do life with other people. And so we're excited about that. And yeah, you're always more than welcome to come join us. I know Pastor Ruth has been, a great part of our group and our collective. And so it's been great to have her as well.
Great, thank you, Lisa. Yeah, I mean, we're just going to go straight in. I've heard quite a lot, of history and a few things in Sankofa, and I think it sheds some light into what we talk about daily and how we actually live our lives. Getting to understand history and how we need to take that forward into the future. But today we're talking about endurance. And we just want to find out how we can endure through our situation. There's been quite a lot since last year, and we want to be able to give our audience some words on endurance. How can we go through our situation with that spirit of endurance? How can we find strength to keep doing good even when it feels like we're almost losing it, and the weight of our situation tries to pull us apart? So what is endurance, and how can we endure through our struggles, through our circumstances?
Yeah, this is a great question, Ruth. I think I would say that endurance is that staying power, the ability to stay even when it's difficult, the ability to commit and to stick something out even when it's hard. And I think it's so important. And the Bible over and over again encourages us to endure, to persevere, to stay. And I'm reminded of that verse in Isaiah. The prophet Isaiah speaks and he says that those that wait on the Lord will renew their strength. They shall mount up on wings like eagles and soar. And it's so important that in our enduring, that it's actually coming from a place of leaning into God, leaning into the strength that we have through God. That it's not just us trying to like fight and to kind of try and push through in our own strength, but us really leaning in and pressing in to strength that comes from God. And so I think endurance, for us, especially as believers and those of faith, comes from a place of faith, comes from a place of trusting and leaning into God for all that, we're able to receive and then also do because of that.
Absolutely, so absolutely. I think yeah, endurance it's just part of persisting through our situation. Like you did mention about waiting.
Mm.
Sometimes the pain of waiting can be really mind troubling. But at the same time, I think that is what we need. Especially in times like this, we need to, have that strength to be able to persist. And to endure, to wait along. And have the ability to withstand, hardship through these times and seasons. So, but how can we find that strength? And you talked about waiting, but how can we, even when our situations tend to pull us apart in our minds, how can we continue to do good, to our neighbors, to be kind to one another, and how can we continue to look forward to the promises of God for our lives? How can we continue to look forward to our dreams? I know we have so many dreams, we things we want to accomplish. Somehow maybe COVID has the events of COVID may have turned that negative or positive. But how can we keep our eyes on the prize?
Yeah, I think Jesus sets us an incredible example in this. That, all throughout the Gospels, you'll often read that Jesus withdrew from the crowds away to pray. That Jesus, frequently takes that moment to pause. That he rises up early and he, seeks time to pray. That even throughout the day, he would withdraw from the crowd, withdraw from the busyness, the stuff and the chaos that's all around, to seek that solitude and that time with God. And Reverend Renee August, in our last Sankofa collective meeting, shared something so profound. And she said that, you know, that as we follow Jesus, as we follow his example, we realize that we can't do it without him. And so we end up needing to worship, because we get to the point where we're like, God, I can't forgive my enemies. God, I can't turn the other cheek. God, I can't give and be generous when I don't want to. And it draws us in, it invites us in to worship God, to worship a God who is able to transform us, to make us new, to cause us to do good, to lead us in goodness. And so it's so important that we are taking those times and those moments to spend with God at any point of the day. This isn't just, time in the morning. You can do this at any point in the day, after a hectic meeting, before a hectic meeting. You can take time in the toilet, you can do it in your room, you can shut the laptop and take a break, and just say, God, I need you now, that I'm leaning into you, that this is hard, that this is tough, that I want to do what isn't Christ-like. So give me that strength, give me that grace, that empowerment that comes from you, to be able to do what Christ would have done in this situation, to love where it's hard to love, to lean into you, to look more and more like how Christ did. And so I think there's this invitation that's always waiting for us to lean into God, to trust him, but to also ask for help, and to receive that grace that comes from that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Lisa. And and that you're absolutely right. And that's I did mention a few things last week in the word for today, last week Wednesday, and I mentioned prayer. Praying when we find ourselves confused and feeling really anxious, because it works. It works. It just brings in some certain kind of peace, into our hearts and our minds at that particular time. And that draws me back to a few examples, of people who had, great trials in the scripture. People like Moses, Abraham. He had a great promise, but he had to endure through, what they endured through what they went through, to be able to achieve the results they achieved in the end. People like Daniel, Esther, and even in our times, in order for some of the countries for them to have their independence, I'm definitely sure of which history tells us that they fought for their nations, they fought for their countries, but they had to endure the pain and the suffering in order to gain the independence for their countries. So I'm encouraging you today, wherever you're watching me from right now, and just as Dr. Lisa has said to us about enduring, waiting, praying, speaking to someone. You have loved ones around you who are waiting for you to come around them. I'm not, like I did mention last week, I'm not asking you to tell the world about your issues, but just reaching out for help and stepping out, just so you can be able to achieve your dreams, and meet your goals at the end. But before we round up, I'm just going to read Hebrews 12:2. Hebrews 12:2 says, "Wherefore, seeing we also are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and sin that doth so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus Christ, the author and the finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him, he endured the cross, he despised the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God." And verse 3 says something, it says, "For consider him that endured such contradiction of sinners against himself, lest ye be weary and faint in your mind." So that portion in verse 3, I love it. It says, for consider him. So, like we mentioned today, consider the fathers of faith, consider those who got the independence of the nations, and and then consider even the fruit of the spirit that is living inside of you, and get that strength to be able to endure through what trials and challenges that you might find yourself. And in just the last word, I think Dr. Lisa has one final word for us this morning. Dr. Lisa, over to you.
Yeah, the final word I probably would give would be, I guess, just on that verse that you shared so powerfully is for the joy set before us. That even in, no matter what we're facing today, that might look completely impossible, might look like it will never end, it will never shift, it will never be moved, that we would endure for the joy set before us, that there is a joy and a hope that we can have because of the kingdom that we belong to, because of the one who holds our world, in his hands. And so it's so important for us to see that joy, to acknowledge that joy, and to hold on to that joy and that hope, as we endure.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Lisa. And thank you, everyone, for listening once again to the word for today. Um, you can still reach out to me. We're still here. The chaplaincy, the College of Chaplaincy at the University of Surrey, we're still here for you. Pastor Ike is here. We are here for you. So please reach out if you need to speak to someone. And I'm definitely sure you will go through whatsoever it is you're going through with the spirit of endurance. Thank you once again. And I hope you have a blessed week. God bless.